Well, hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and we are going to be talking about pro wrestling here for the next couple of hours right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast application. Wherever you decide to let me in, I'm going all in. I'm going for it. It's your mistake. Essentially. I want to thank you all for joining me today to listen to some wrestling talk. We've got a pretty big show set up here. By the way, if you want to jump into the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, the link is in the description. We'd love to have you. And if you'd like to leave a like here on YouTube or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify, all of that would be tremendous as well. But we've got a big show, a big enough show that as I'm recording, things are going well and I'm grooving and things are going long. And all these reviews that I had planned to do, I'm going to have to split them up over the week. Well, not all of them. The Capital Collision review, I'm probably going to have to come back with that later on in the week. Because we're going to be reviewing Bash at the Beach, Bash in Berlin. You'll see, this is a meme. Once you get to that part in the podcast, you'll see. You'll understand what this meme is about. Bash in Berlin, the WWE show that happened just this weekend. I'm reviewing that along with NXT No Mercy. We've got lots of contract news that's happening in the world of pro wrestling. A couple of news items per usual. It's a big, busy show. One that I'm so big that I wasn't able to pack in everything I wanted to do. So there'll be extra content later this week. Be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of it, miss a second of it. I'll be here to deliver. So, but we've got that lined up. Let's get to it. Thank you very much for being here. Here we go. So to start things off tonight, we are going to talk about Nikki Garcia, formerly known as Nikki Bella. Her husband, Artem Shigvinstev, I hope I pronounced that correctly, was arrested last Thursday, August 29, on domestic violence charges. I have some information. I have the information here. It was first reported by TMZ, adding that the victim in the case had asked for total confidentiality, and at that time we weren't sure, but everything sort of came into view that this was indeed what happened. According to the local report, authorities responded to a domestic violence call before 10 a.m. local time Thursday at a location in Yountville. This is where Shingvinstev was arrested and later booked on a felony domestic violence charge with bail set at $25,000, reportedly, of course. Now today, September 3rd, which was when we record this every Tuesday live, and on September 3rd today, TMZ followed up, reported that Garcia had gotten in touch with divorce lawyers in the wake of the arrests to clearly go ahead with a divorce process for her in her marriage. According to now, if we go back to the event itself, TMZ obtained audio files of the 911 calls. It should be noted that Nikki Garcia never called 911. It was Artem Chigvinstev who apparently made the call. He panicked over the injuries that Nikki Garcia sustained in the beating he gave her. Of course, this is allegedly. Of course, he called. He even called in at the at the emergency room at about 8:30 a.m. Can you imagine? Like, again, if this is true, like, I'm not saying that this has been confirmed. You know, we still have to do the process here. But can you imagine this dude calls 911 out of fear that he's beaten his wife too hard, and now he's fearing for her safety? Like, that's just like that's it's topsy-turvy land is what that is. Doesn't make sense. So paramedics, fire trucks were dispatched when 911 got another call again from Chigvinstev, and he told the dispatcher to call the whole thing off. He was like, "No, I'm canceling the 911. We're fine." So the paramedics and the fire trucks, again, this is all according to TMZ, were sent back, turned around basically, but apparently it is protocol nonetheless for law enforcement to show up just to make sure that everything is indeed okay, because how many times has that happened and things weren't okay? So it's procedure for police to do that. So they arrived about, what did we said earlier that he had called at 8:30 a.m. They arrived at 9:30 a.m. and police arrived and observed injuries on the alleged victim, and that triggered the arrest. Chigvinstev was, excuse me for the pronunciation, I'm really terrible at it. Chigvinstev was taken to the police station, booked on federal corporal injury to a spouse or cohabitant. I think that's the exact charge. And apparently, like TMZ said, that Nikki Bella has been making calls since Friday last week to making calls to lawyers to file for divorce and good for her, she should. I can't imagine how awful a situation that is, and it's just, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And I don't understand. It just completely escapes anything imaginable to me how you could be in a relationship, you are with someone that you love, that you care for deeply, and somehow this can lead to you striking a person. And in this case, it's not just striking a person, it is beating her so hard that you feel you have to call the paramedics in. That you're like, you got to come over here, my wife is in trouble. Why is she in trouble, sir? I beat her so hard that now I'm afraid for her life. That's not what he said, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like, and maybe this is just my personal nature, because I have never been in a fist fight. Like, I've never been in a fist fight with anyone. I've shoved people around, but I've been shoved around. If we're going to call this fairly down the middle with no spin zone right here, I've never been in a fight with anyone. I've never been pushed to that extent. I'm sure that given the correct circumstances regarding certain people that I love, I probably could be pushed to, getting into a fight with someone. But with someone that I care about, that I love, that I have a child with, that just boggles my mind. That just absolutely boggles my mind. And the thing is that there, in these circumstances with the domestic abuse cases, it rarely only occurs in one occasion, right? It's rarely only one thing. That it's rarely only one single incident. Usually there's been a pattern beforehand. So you can only imagine how much of piece of shit this guy has been. quite frankly. So, it's like, look, we'll keep an eye on this, and hopefully Nikki Garcia gets the resolution that she deserves in this, that she gets some peace, and that Chigvinstev gets what he deserves. Quite frankly, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You just don't go swinging at the person you love, the person that you're living with. It's abusive. It's sick. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your beliefs are. You just don't do that. You don't. That's not how it goes. So, Yeah, I mean, it's a disgusting action. I wanted to cover this. I don't like. There's not much analysis to bring here. There's not much really to add here. I just hope, like I said, that Nikki Garcia gets the resolution that she needs, that she wants. I hope her husband eats shit, and that everything that everything, of course, considering that everything is indeed true. Hope it all comes up better for her in this circumstance. But what a disaster! What an absolute disaster this is. Let's talk about some AEW All In London business. How the business of All In has been shaken out here. First of all, we have an early estimate for AEW All In London pay-per-view buys in last week's or this week's, because the week's not in the latest edition. That's better, actually. That's even clearer. Good job, Warren. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that the preliminary estimate for All In London regarding pay-per-view buys would be somewhere between 167 to 173,000 combined total buys for both streaming and regular TV, which is a huge jump from Forbidden Door, which was at 120 pay-per-view buys, just around that estimate. 120,000 pay-per-view buys for Forbidden Door. That would make All In London the second biggest top-selling pay-per-view of 2024 for AEW. Again, still behind Revolution this year, Sting's final match, which was at an estimated 180,000 buys. Tony Khan didn't mention anything in regards to the amount of buys, or he's been a little cagey over the amount of tickets sold as well. We'll get to the ticket sales in a second. Last year, 200,000 pay-per-view buys for All In London. And it's important to note at the same time, as Dave pointed out, that the shows for the Eastern, for those of us in North America, Canada, the US, Mexico, the show started much earlier than usual, of course, in the afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern, on a Sunday. So did that contribute? Did that help? Did that help? Was that a problem? Could they have gotten more? Hard to say, because the data is still, very private. Again, these are all estimates, right? So the data in and about itself is very, very private. So what kind of effect did it have on viewership, since it was so early for us North American viewers? Who knows? I gotta say, I enjoyed the idea of an afternoon pay-per-view. Just like I enjoyed the idea of an afternoon pay-per-view for Bash in Berlin, even though the show itself is another point of contention. It's not a bad that's So for me, it's like it's an easy sell. You'd probably say, yeah, but Warren, you buy the shows anyway. But let's say if I wasn't, and football hasn't started yet, and there's not and college sports is not invading my screens, and I kind of have the routine of watching sports on Sundays, on Sunday afternoons. Well, maybe I'd be a little more inclined on to do that. You know what I mean? I think that was I think there was something there. But that's not all we're going to talk about, though, because today we had Brendan Thurston over at WrestleNomics release attendance data for All In 2024, he had, of course, the ever popular turnstile count over at Wembley. 46,476 is what he counts it, as opposed to Tony Khan saying that the ticket sales for All In were over 50,000 tickets. He never gave a precise number. And whereas WrestleTix, who is usually very precise on these things in regards to estimations, like I'm saying precise, but these are still all estimations. The amount of tickets distributed regarding WrestleTix were estimated by WrestleTix, is what I'm trying to say, was at 53,393 tickets. So there is there's basically a drop off everywhere, which is in tune to the discrepancies that happened last year in 2023. We had the same type of measurements for All In 2023. So basically the paid attendance for AEW, the estimated tickets distributed via WrestleTix, and the turnstile count. So let's compare with last year just to refresh our memories and just get that perception, right? 81,035 tickets. 81,035 tickets was what was announced by AEW. The estimated number of tickets distributed by WrestleTix for last year was 83,131. So it was over than what the estimation by WrestleTix was higher, I should say, than what AEW announced. And the turnstile count was 72,265. This year, AEW, as we said, announced via Tony Khan, said that we had over 50,000 tickets sold. Not a specific number. AEW has not announced a specific number, so over 50,000 tickets. WrestleTix estimated 53,393, like we just mentioned, and the turnstile count for this year is 46,476. Now, just to be clear, I should have mentioned this earlier, just so we're all on the same page here. What the hell is a turnstile count, Warren? Well, it's actually the number of tickets scanned going into the building, right? Because of course you can sell tickets. Someone can buy a ticket but not go to the show, right? That of course is still money. It's still money in the bank. It's whether you go to the show or not, you've paid for it. AEW has your money. Showing up at the door, getting your tickets, that's how we get the quote unquote turnstile count. And so as we mentioned, 46,476 this year is what the ticket scanners scanned. Brandon points out here that the three metrics represent a consistent difference this year compared to last year, each down by about 36%. So everything sort of is in correlation. And Brandon also adds this. These numbers suggest around 80% of tickets distributed end up being used for both this year's event and last year. It seems surprising that as many as 13% of tickets sold or given away end up not being used, but that percentage is consistent with records we obtained and reported on earlier this year related to AEW Revolution in Greensboro, where 16,118 tickets were distributed and 13,850 tickets used, which is again about 13% less, 87% overall. So what does this mean? Well, I mean, this apparently is the trend. I think that this is the trend, that AEW seems to that 13% of the tickets that AEW sells to their shows people end up not using them, not going to the show, not putting their butt in their seat, essentially. Why? Well, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. That could be a number of reasons, but it's an interesting bit of data to consider. And it's still made. Here's the thing: like, we can pick all of this apart, but the show still ended up making over $10 million at the gate. Okay, we don't know, like, individually what each ticket average price was. I guess we could work it out. I guess we could figure it out fairly easily, but I am terrible at math, so I'm not even gonna venture. I'm not even gonna venture down that path. How many what was the average ticket price, the high, low, the median, and all that? I'm not gonna venture down that, but 10 million, like, that is a tremendous, an absolutely tremendous gate for AEW. Will probably be the biggest one they'll have. And yes, it is a significant drop from last year, which is why they're not going back to London next year either, which, if they had gone back to London at Wembley next year, you could have probably assumed another substantial drop as well, and you don't want that. I don't think it's overall a good look. But it's still like one of the top non-WWE shows drawn in the history of pro wrestling as far as drawing, right? Here I'm going to quote off Rich Craich from Voices of Wrestling, who did a fantastic article sort of recapping all of that. The highest attendance that WCW ever achieved on their own, like without the help of New Japan Pro Wrestling, we know what we're talking about here, was the July 6, 1998 Monday Nitro from the Georgia Dome, right? The Goldberg Hulk Hogan main event, 39,000 fans. January 4, 1999, Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash, the finger poke of doom, again at the Georgia Dome, 38,809. I mean, that's tremendous. Like, this is a non-WWE show. I'm talking about AEW, and it's drawing higher than from WCW when WCW was still riding high. It wasn't the dregs yet. You can argue that the finger poke of doom was the place where everything really started to go downhill. You can also say that's things that started to go downhill before that. I think it started to go downhill, on the Nitro after Starrcade when Sting won. When Sting won the title and then they stripped him of it. I would point to that very moment where things had started deflating in WCW. And like TNA, its highest mark to date, 7,200 for TNA Lockdown in 2013 from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, the thing here is that you can pick apart as much as you want the lower number, the lower attendance, the turnstile count, as opposed to, the numbers that were being reported. You can have a field day with that if you want. But the reality is, the concrete reality is that this is a successful business. From a business perspective, this is a successful show for AEW. I would even say from a wrestling perspective, All In was a successful show as well. like I said in my review, not a great show, but a very good show. So, it was good all around. And it's crazy that, and we had speculated on this, and a lot of people were talking about it. Why isn't Tony just outright giving the number? Is it because he doesn't want to deal with the discourse of people going after him? There's, oh, you only drew 50,000 people. Last year you did 80. You now only 50,000. When 50,000 people in an arena is a tremendous success. And what is wrong with people? Like, what is absolutely wrong with people in their mind? Like, this is a bona fide success. There's no two ways to go about it. So again, for those of you who listen to my to the Thursday Dynamite reviews, which you should, because I do them every Thursday. First of all, second of all, they're about AEW Dynamite, and third of all, they're very good. For those of you who listen to that, know that I talk about this a lot. I talk about the attendance overall for the TV being fluctuating and not being great. But the pay-per-views and the pay-per-views are always a mark of success. They always have solid gates and solid pay-per-view numbers every single time. That's the consumer metric that AEW has that still has not faltered. That hasn't fallen to the depths that the weekly TV tapings have fallen to. And All in London proves it again. So, great pay-per-view buys on this one. Another fantastic gate. And even if it is, even if the number turns out to be indeed 46,476 as opposed to over 50,000, it's a success with whichever way you slice it. And you can mock AEW, you can laugh, but this is not the circumstance. You want to laugh at the attendance that they had last week on Dynamite. That's risible. That's something that, I would probably join in on. But this is a success. This is a success right here. What we should do next is contracts and injuries. We've got some more contract news. We got some injury. We've got some health related wrestling issues. I don't know if they're not really injuries. Maybe we should call it that. Health and contracts, because it's not always injuries. Let's start by talking about Swerve Strickland. We got some details on his new AEW contract that he signed last Sunday at All In. AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland was shown signing a new contract with Tony Khan. He did that on the All In 0 Hour show. Of course, we're not quite sure at that time. We weren't quite sure of the details regarding the contract. Dave Meltzer in the newest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter had some details that caused a bit of a stir amongst the dregs of the internet over there on X, formerly Twitter. Dave reported that the new deal will keep Strickland in AEW through September 2029, so that would be a 5-year deal, and is one that financially puts Strickland in striking distance of the very top stars of pro wrestling. It was hinted to him that the contract is in the range of those for Mercedes Moné and Kazuchika Okada, but not in the realm of deals like Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton have with WWE. And this is where people started losing their minds. Like, well, why would WWE talk about their contracts for an AEW story that doesn't make sense. And well, Dave is maybe privy to this information. Maybe he just doesn't disclose it because, like, maybe he's just asked off the record. Don't disclose it, but for your personal information, here you go. You know, it's not a big deal to me. You know, Dave is privy to information that he doesn't report on for a bunch of reasons, that he doesn't specify for numerous reasons, because he needs to validate, he needs to make sure that he can confirm the information that he has. Maybe it's just stories that he doesn't think that he wants to pursue. Maybe there are stories that he cannot pursue. And sometimes stuff is just said off the record, and you keep that registered, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, I know how much Roman and Cody and Randy are making in WWE, but I can't say because that could probably put me in trouble. Or worse, burn my source. Which is something that, the children on Twitter don't understand. That there's some information that if he puts out there, it will probably reveal who his source is. So David's like, no, we're not going to talk about contract amounts. Just look, this is what we're doing. He also reported, Dave did, that WWE tried to make a play for Strickland and Nana. And again, this was another firestorm. And I don't know why. Here's the thing. And here's something that I have trouble wrapping my head around. Okay? Imagine I have trouble wrapping my head around this. How is it contract tampering? And I'm not a legal expert. Okay? I'm not a legal expert. I can only go off of things that I know, okay? And in my shoot job, I have a contract. And the only things that exist in my contract that say like if I'm terminated from my job, or if I'm terminated from my job, I have a non-compete. I can't go work for someone else for a certain period of time within the same field. Okay? But there is nowhere that says that I cannot entertain offers from someone else. Someone could call me up, arrange a meeting, we would like your services, or I could reach out. If I were to look for another job, I could reach out somewhere else. Then it's not tampering. It's like, well, I will gladly join you guys, but I have to terminate. My job has to end first, and I have no compete that lasts for so long. So I don't understand. Now I understand that there's this idea of contract tampering in pro sports leagues, but tampering is something that exists in the bylaws of the league and has something to do with the unions, as far as I understand, the players' unions. So they have their own regulatory system. Now, unless there's these stipulations within the contracts themselves, I don't know how WWE reaching out to Swerve saying, we would offer you this much money for you to come here and bring Prince Nana with you. I don't know if it's tampering. What are we tampering? If Swerve if Swerve breaks his contract, he's getting into legal trouble. And so does the other company. Because there's things that just do not compute, right? Adam Copeland showed up on the first Dynamite after his contract expired from WWE. Do Do we all really think that the start of the negotiations and the chatting with Copeland and the back and forth and the signing of the contract all happened within a matter of days? No. Let's not be stupid and naive here. So that's why, like, I don't understand these claims about contract tampering. I don't understand. It goes above me. Like, anyone who does a surprise debut on on a show has spoken to the promotion way before they decided to show up, way before they bought a ticket to book a flight to the venue. It's like when Cody showed up to WWE. Like, there's no way he started negotiating like a couple of weeks before showing up. Like, that it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Again, unless there's things in the contract themselves that specifically forbid it, or that there's something very specific about it. But it doesn't connect in my head. It does not make sense. It does not make sense. But what makes sense is AEW locking down Swerve. Because if I'm Tony Khan, I'm like, I did not spend the last year building this guy up into a brand new top guy superstar, only to let him slip over to the other company. Like, if we were in an environment similar to back in the territories, where guys would jump around from territory to territory, maybe it wouldn't be that big a deal. But in this environment and how business is conducted now, it would have been a huge deal, and just egg on Tony Khan's face if that had happened. So good on him for signing him, but more importantly, good on Swerve for getting the money. Good for him. I am very proud to have always been a pro Swerve Strickland podcast here. For as long as I can remember, I've been telling you all that this guy was going to be a top guy. And here we are. As far as AEW goes, I think that's all the contract news that we had. Let's move over to WWE. Odyssey Jones is apparently no longer with WWE. As some folks pointed out yesterday, September 2nd, Odyssey Jones had been removed from the WWE roster page. Then we got an update that we even got an update by Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio saying he was taken off the roster page. This is a quote: "I've asked around, and if it had been any kind of glitch, something, obviously, I think by now it would have been corrected, or we would have heard it's a glitch." Sean Ross Sapp followed up to say that it wasn't a glitch, and he was in fact not at Raw. This is what Sean said on Twitter. Sean Ross Sapp: "Odyssey Jones was removed from WWE when domestic violence allegations came to light. We've not heard of an arrest or charges being pressed in relation to the situation. We've reached out to WWE for comment, as well as clarification on his status. Talent had not been informed of the situation." And on Tuesday's edition of Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez noted that he had heard that Jones had been fired from the company, and Ibu of Wrestle Purists said the domestic abuse allegations were not pretty. Now, you could be sitting right there and saying, "Warren, who the hell is Odyssey Jones?" And you would be absolutely okay in saying that. I would be right there with you. This is a guy This is a guy who's been with the company for a while. Well, not a while. Like, when did he start? Let's pull this up here. Well, I mean, he has been there since 2019. So it's been a 5-year journey for Odyssey Jones in WWE. And if you'd never heard of him before, I don't blame you, because he's barely done anything. He's barely been featured anywhere. I think he's only been featured on Level Up. The only time I ever really heard of Odyssey Jones showing up, that I've ever heard of Odyssey Jones, period, is when Griffin Peltier would talk to me about, what's happening on Level Up, because for some reason he watches Level Up religiously. God bless him. Then I listened to his reports. So outside of him talking about that, like, I know he showed up on Raw. He was drafted to Raw. I was like, okay, what are they? And that he was in a thing with the New Day. But he's like nothing. He's no one. He's a guy that no one really paid any mind to, that we never talked about. And now he's like the main character in wrestling news. Everyone's talking about it. Now, don't get me wrong. Here's the thing. Be very clear here, Warren. I am not in any way, shape, or form minimizing the allegations, right? We don't know exactly what they are. As when I'm recording this, at the very least, as I'm recording this, I don't know exactly what the allegations are regarding Odyssey Jones. But I don't want to minimize what's happening, the reason why he was fired. He might turn out to have done something completely terrible, and he probably deserves to get fired, but we'll see how all this turns out, right? I don't want to minimize here. Just because we've never heard of him doesn't mean that the allegations aren't significant. Doesn't mean that what he did should be just poo-pooed and hand-waved. No, absolutely not. That's fine. What's fascinating here is that this guy, up until today, was practically nobody. Where people scratch their heads like, who's this guy? This is a guy that they were pegging to be the next Mark Henry, right? And boy, oh boy, maybe not the best, maybe not the best guy to compare a career to. Mark Henry, had a 20-year career. Maybe 2 of those years were any good. He did one angle that got over. Mark Henry is a guy that WWE signed for 10 years. Remember this? 10 years. And then they had buyer's remorse. So they started having him do stupid shit so that he'd get mad and quit, so that they wouldn't have to pay him anymore. The hand and all this bullshit that they'd have him do. But he was cool with it. He was like, man, I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid $1 million. What was it that? 10 years, 10 million? Wasn't that it? I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's something to that effect. But they were setting this guy up to be the next Mark Henry. Not necessarily a grand testament on your skill set, if you ask me. And now this pops up and then he disappears. Odyssey Jones would have given anything for people to have talked to him as much about his career post this than they do now. Trust me. And I can only assume that this is bad because they did away. He's not even in the alumni section. Like they just erased him. They pulled. It's like CMLL and Stephanie Vicaire. There's a persona non grata. You never existed for us. You've disappeared. There's not a trace of you to be found. It's incredible. Anyway, we'll see how this continues to develop. I have I've seen the guy wrestle. I don't know what, he had a look. Yes, he's big, beefy, and strong, but I don't think anyone is like, man, oh man, would have loved to see how far he was going to go. I don't know. Maybe, not me. So, Odyssey Jones hit the bricks. We'll probably learn more as this goes on because WWE tried to keep this quiet. Look, they tried to keep this quiet. They didn't even tell Sean Ross Sapp. They didn't even tell Fightful that he had been released. Usually that's what they do. They go through Fightful, the HR arm, who gets all of the releases, gets them all, so that WWE doesn't have to put out little tweets anymore, wishing everyone what's the term? What was the best in their future endeavors? They're not future endeavoring anymore. They let Sean handle that, They didn't even reach out to Fightful to say Odyssey Jones is gone. They didn't even do that. It's got to be pretty bad. They wanted this to be kept as quiet as possible. And now it's just going to be worse. Next on the contract train, Randy Orton has confirmed that he has a new deal with WWE. He's re-signed for 5 years. This has been reported by Fightful. While he was cutting a promo at the pre-Bash in Berlin kickoff this past weekend, he confirmed the news and said he's looking to break Ric Flair and John Cena's record for the most world title reigns in history. That's why he wanted to win against Gunther this weekend, but we all know the world title, that whatever they have there, it's not a real world title. It has no lineage. It's a phony consolation prize meant to keep everyone else on the roster happy because Roman was hogging the title. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't think anyone is really shocked about this. And he's probably making a boatload of money too, so good for him. Nikki Cross also re-signed for a multi-year deal with WWE as well. This was reported by Fightful. The negotiations apparently started this spring, and only recently did everything come together. She is now in the Wyatt Six. She is the Sister Abigail in the Wyatt Six. So good for Nikki. Asuka apparently also re-signed a new long-term contract with WWE. This was reported by PW Insider just yesterday, Monday, that she had signed a new long-term deal, but we don't know what the terms are. Of course, right now she is injured. She's still recovering from a knee injury. She hasn't wrestled since Backlash this year. After she underwent surgery on May, and she said she was taking a break to deal with a knee issue that had been bothering her for a while. Asuka's 42 years old, nonetheless. When you think about this, she's 42 years old. There's not a lot of women in WWE's history that have remained active roster members. And I mean, like full-time active roster members that busted through the age 40 gap. That's something interesting to keep in mind. More WWE contract stuff. Victoria, the FKA Victoria, Tara in TNA, Lisa Marie Vachon. She revealed on I believe it's on Twitter that she has been signed to a WWE nostalgic contract. Nostalgic with a capital N. She said this: "It's a true honor to be a part of the WWE universe again. This doesn't mean I will hopping back into the ring anytime soon, but never say never. It does mean I will be included in future things, such as video games and maybe some new official merch." This sounds like what used to be called a Legends contract. Maybe she means a nostalgia contract. I think it's the first time I hear that term being used. A WWE nostalgia or nostalgic contract. I don't think that nostalgic is the right word. Like, we're not nostalgic for the contract. I think that's probably what she meant. It's probably just a typo. Or maybe it is nostalgic, WWE nostalgic contract, and that's just like terrible branding. But she said that she's going to be back doing this. She's going to be back doing she's doing appearances and whatnot. It sounds like what they used to call the Legends contract. So, I mean, good for her. I have no interest in this, but good for her. And something I have even less interest on, Logan Paul had Hulk Hogan on his podcast. I believe this is today. And Hogan announced he confirmed on the podcast that he signed a 5-year deal with WWE, kind of using the same terms that Victoria, Lisa Marie Vachon was using, saying, merch sales and stuff like that. And then they might even have me show up for a WrestleMania or whatever, then that means so again, anyway, it looks like WWE is doing a roundup of its legends and pulling out these nostalgia contracts. I mean, I don't care for Hulk Hogan in the very least. So again, this is just news that I'm relaying. It's not something I'm excited about. I'm like, keep him as far away from me as possible, man. And, he's still going around being racist. He's still going around being a completely delusional racist dude now that he's completely embraced the right-wing grift. Now he feels a lot more comfortable doing that now. Good for him. Good for him. Over on the TNA side, Giselle Shaw has been granted her release from TNA Wrestling that we learned today. Fightful reported that she had requested it recently. It has been granted under the condition that she worked TNA's set of tapings in Louisville, Kentucky this past weekend. The report notes that TNA didn't put up a fight in keeping her around. So I would assume that she's going to head on over to Scott D'Amore's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I think, she's already been announced, actually. She had been announced previous to that. So maybe she's going to stick around a little more. Like, I don't know what Scott D'Amore's plans are. I'm assuming I don't know if he's going to run monthly shows. I don't know what his plan is. If he's going to do the old, the old TNA model or whatnot, but she'll probably be around. And, she, a lot of people say, she AEW. I don't know if, here's the thing. I think she has ins with, she has ins in Europe, especially in the UK. She's got ins over there. She's worked the UK a long time. She's well liked there, well regarded. So she could go back on a dime. Ref Pro is pretty hot these days. I think there's work for her there if she wants to go grab it. And, she'd fit right in because she's worked there tons before. People are like, AEW, and I'm like, I don't know. Will Ospreay quote tweeted a tweet that she put out where she essentially confirmed that she was free and that she could do whatever she wants, and he quote tweeted that with the eyeballs. So is that? Are we trying to say something here? But I don't know if Giselle Shaw is, I like Giselle and all. I don't know if that's what the AEW division, women's division needs. Because I think the recent acquisitions of women's talent from TNA has not been particularly successful in regards to like Deonna Purrazzo is fine. Taya Valkyrie is not very good. Maybe she breaks the streak. Maybe she is the revelation. Maybe she's the one we needed. I don't know. To me, she doesn't come across as a fit. If I'm Tony Khan, I give her, bring her in, give it a try. But I think there are women currently working in the Tonyverse, so I'm including Ring of Honor in here, that would benefit tremendously from a spot opening up and then going in to grab it, right? Queen Aminata is absolutely fantastic. Like at some point, you're going to have to bring Athena back to AEW. Like, I know she's the cornerstone of Ring of Honor right now, but you're going to have to bring her back at some point. Like, there are women who can benefit from this, as opposed to someone else coming in from the outside taking a spot. That's how I feel about it. And I kind of look at the state, like Giselle leaving TNA, and I kind of think of the state of the women's division, the Knockouts division in TNA, right? And, TNA's losing Jordynne Grace in like 4 months. I don't think that's a secret. I think everyone sort of expects it at the very least. It's one of these things where, is she going to do it? Is she not? No, they're waiting for her arms wide open in WWE. What are we talking about here? Who does that leave? What's left in TNA then afterwards? Dana Brooke. Are you ready for the Dana Brooke era? They've got Masha Slamovich, but they're not pushing Masha. Is this the time to do it? Maybe, but then all the interesting competition for Masha is already gone. Killer Kelly's not going to be around for a while. Like, who's left? Dana Brooke? Alicia Edwards? Like, we're not shining with stars here. It kind of shows how thin things have gotten in TNA in the women's side. I know people like to say that the Knockouts division is one of the best booked, is one of the best divisions, is the best women's division in all of wrestling. But, I will echo Garrett Kidney, trove of knowledge in regards to TNA, and I agree with him. I think many people would say that TNA, that the Knockouts division is the best booked women's division in all of wrestling, because all of the women were treated special. They were all given stories. They weren't just relegated to, curtain jerkers and little quick 5-minute things and then you're gone. No, there was actual effort put into each women's presence, and that made everyone feel special, that they all had a purpose to be on television. But in the meantime, they really didn't build any real stars. They had Naomi come in and have her undefeated streak. Jordynne Grace after, like Jordynne was already a star for them. Deonna Purrazzo, but they've elevated no one. Maybe they're trying to do that with Kylan King, and she got injured, which is a shame. Don't get me wrong. Maybe that was part of the plan. But then if that plan doesn't work, you pivot. Chad's talking about Rosemary. I like Rosemary as much as anyone else, but Rosemary is not who she used to be either. Like it's a very, very tepid division right now. I'm not saying that Giselle leaving is like is a death knell. That's not what I'm saying. But it's absolutely a blow for the division in regards to capable, competent, perceived stars in TNA. I mean, if you're ready for the Dana Brooke era, good for you. I'm not. Just interesting. Little sidebar there. And finally, last of our contract news, Jake Lee is officially a member of the New Japan Pro Wrestling roster. He has officially signed with New Japan. He held a press conference today, September 3rd, when we're recording this, to announce that he is a full-time member of the roster. And he signed the contract, answered, basically, answered a few questions. Puts over the fact that he's a member of the War Dogs and that he's happy about it. I mean, look, this has been a dream for him. This has legitimately been a dream. And I am so happy that Jake Lee is finally realizing his biggest dream, which is to compete in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Would I have put just about anyone else in that spot than Jake Lee? Quite probably. There's a litany of other guys that had I been, in the executive positions of New Japan, that I would have contacted, negotiated with long before offering a contract to Jake Lee, whose background, his accomplishments in Apero are not remarkable, and he is not an exciting wrestler, and I don't care for him much. Now, to be fair, I strive to be as fair as possible. Lee in the second half of his G1 run this year had actually started getting good, started getting interesting. His opening matches, the opening match, the Sonata Squash was awful. And he had a couple of matches after that, which were the pits. But as things progressed, I could not sit around and say, Jake Lee stinks. It's like, no, he's actually doing pretty good. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you he's the second coming of Frank Gotch, but he was absolutely working harder. There was something more to what he was doing. He wasn't just a schlub, the usual schlub that he is. It was a pretty good run that he had, I thought, overall. Now, is this going to continue? Now that he's signed and he's a single star and he's doing this, maybe. Like right now, he's paired up in a tag team with Gabe Kidd, which I think is a very interesting pairing. I think they've shown a lot of chemistry together, and Gabe Kidd's going to make sure that this works out. And I have a lot of faith in Gabe Kidd, a lot more than Jake Lee. So they'll probably show up in World Tag League or something later this fall or something. You can assume that, but yeah. Hey, Get Show Podcast. Nice to see you, man. Thanks for dropping in. Jake Lee also apparently he also told Tokyo Sports that New Japan Pro Wrestling is paying him a salary that's more than double, quote unquote, what Noah used to pay him. Now, that's very interesting to me. Seeing that we know how that New Japan had to make cuts because of poor overall performance, and they had to make cuts to the roster salaries in recent years. What the hell was Noah paying? What in the world was Noah paying? If he's like, oh yeah, this is great, more than double. Holy shit. So there we go. That's what we got for contracts. In regards to, well, like we said, health issues, health situations. I mentioned Killer Kelly not that long ago, but she and her partner Myron Reed announced that they are expecting a child. Kelly announced on Monday, on September 2nd, that she is pregnant. She said the couple tried to keep the news private, but decided to go public with it. Look, how private can you keep a pregnancy? Like, literally your body takes an entirely different shape for months upon months. So, good intentions, Kelly, Myron, because at some point people are just going to start asking, where's Killer Kelly? Where's Killer Kelly? Where's Killer Kelly? And then it'll become a thing. Like, this was absolutely the smart move. So congratulations to the couple. Of course, that means Killer Kelly will not be around for a while. And Bronson Reed missed a Monday Night Raw this week because he has COVID and was pulled from the show. And he was to compete in the number one contenders triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. All right then. I mean, look, sucks that he got COVID. Don't get me wrong. It's not fun. But I don't know if I have sympathy for for big Bronson Reed, to be perfectly honest. Is this a guy who goes on Twitter and complains, I'm not being moved? Well, this is your choice, brother. You were working fine on the indies. You were just waiting for Triple Paul to call you back. You picked up the minute it started ringing. You dropped everything. And you said, yes, sir, Mr. Levesque, I'm coming over right away. Despite the fact that New Japan really liked you. Gave you a win over Kazuchika Okada. You couldn't wait to drop everything and go back and then just like settle it in the mid-card. And then you start complaining. I can't believe I'm doing this. They're keeping me off the Australia show. I'm off WrestleMania. Now you're fighting. Now, look, it stinks because it's bad luck. He's starting to get a push. He did the thing with Braun Strowman, which is funny, right? This is kind of what I've always hoped, that we would have Braun Strowman versus Bronson Reed. All of that was meeting was Braun Breaker, and we'd have the perfect triple threat match. So, and he's, I'm going to make a name for myself. That was what he tweeted, right? But, if you're in WWE and you chose to go to WWE, especially in his circumstance, he was fired, called back, he jumped right in, like without hesitation, and now you're complaining because of your spot. I have no sympathy for you. I've got nothing for you. This is the bed you made. This is all on you. So, was he supposed to win the number one contenders match? Maybe. If he's not, it sucks. If it was him, it sucks. It sucks for him. It'll just give him more material to complain about later. Let's get to it. It is time to start the reviews. We're about 2 hours into the show. On the recording anyway, and this is supposed to be like the main event. Can I get all of these done within an hour or so? We're about to find out. The answer, of course, is no. We're going to review WWE Bash at the Beach. See, I knew I was going to do it. I knew it. I knew 100%. I knew the minute this show was announced, I said to myself in my brain, I said, I am going to refer to this show at least once as Bash at the Beach. And I was pretty good so far. And then the minute that just talking about it casually. Oh yeah, Bash in Berlin, Bash at Berlin. Oh yeah, we're gonna hang out with Bash at Berlin. And the minute I start reviewing it, I call it Bash at the Beach. Because why? Why? Because I'm a fool. Bash at Berlin. Even before we start, I gotta. We have to have a talk here. We have to have a talk about me and where I'm at with WWE. Watching these two shows this weekend, and I'm being serious here. Watching these two shows this weekend just maybe this might be my breaking point as to whether I continue covering WWE or not. And it's weird because I don't think these were bad shows. Well, I don't think Bash in Berlin was a bad show. I think the NXT show is another story. That's a whole other yarn. But when it comes to Bash in Berlin, personally, I didn't think it was a bad show. So you'd think that I'd reach a breaking point after watching like the most atrocious, horrible WWE show. You'd think that I'd be like, I'm sick of covering these, a series of bad shows. I can't take it anymore. I'm done. And then you're like, there's like 3 duds on the show. I am throwing shit out the window. No, this is done. Finito. I don't want to do this anymore. You'd think that would be someone's regular breaking point, right? But for me, right now, I'm at a point that I watch WWE shows and I just feel nothing. I feel absolutely nothing. And that bothers me. I'm looking at the show. I'm watching both of these shows. And both of them are just like, they're completely turning me off, I guess. Not even turning me off. It's not, because I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm not feeling anything. There's nothing happening. There's nothing that's making me feel invested, compelled, excited about what I'm watching. Everything regarding, the production, the match structure, the wrestlers themselves, there's too much stuff in WWE that is contrived, over sanitized, that strips away any personality, any like real feeling, where instead I'm just looking at the stuff and I'm looking at, overall competent pro wrestling, but it's not engaging me on any emotional level. It's not getting me on any emotional level. And the wrestling is not on a level that I enjoy. It's not stuff happening that I find is exciting or compelling. It's either just like basic stuff. There are exceptions, don't get me wrong, but the exceptions aren't enough to outweigh the general rule. But the matches happen. They're, like I said, they're competent, they're well done, but they're also just contrived and boring. Nothing that excites me. And I think, because it dawned on me the amount of time that I put into watching WWE this weekend, and I was like, I was watching Bash in Berlin, and I was like, I could be outside. I could be at the dog park right now. It was a lovely day. I could have been at the dog park, throwing a ball around, just having a good time, running around with my dog, and with other. I could have just gone to the farmer's market and just like walked around, looked at the wares, pick up some stuff, taste some samples, that kind of stuff. And instead I was watching a show. I'm like, there's no feel to this. There's nothing happening. And it's not wrestling that I feel compelled to watch. I was even thinking at some point, I was like, I could be watching anything else, like in regards to pro wrestling. A lot of my circles were really excited about the Rev Pro show that happened this weekend. Apparently some great matches. JJ Gill and Tomohiro Ishii apparently tore the house down. That kind of stuff. But then I'm like, no, I'm committed to watching this. But then I'm like, why? Why am I committed to watching this? Is it because I do a pro wrestling podcast and if I don't cover WWE, I'm not covering pro wrestling? But, even myself in my own discourse, when I think back of at previous reviews that I've done, I've often said that I don't even feel like this is pro wrestling. It feels like a show about pro wrestling. And Paul Levesque goes on, has an interview in Sports Illustrated, and he starts saying himself, he said it himself, WWE is not a sport. WWE is a show about a sport. So what am I doing watching a facsimile of pro wrestling? If even the guy who was in charge, of creative for the company says, you're not watching pro wrestling. You're watching a homunculus, a copy. It's like watching, the Glow TV show on Netflix. It's like watching Heels with, Green Arrow. Can't remember, Stephen Amell. Couldn't remember his name there for a second. I'm like, what? So why am I doing this? I could be catching up on CML. One of the best things I've done this year for myself as a pro wrestling fan is get into Lucha Libre, specifically CMLL. And I've spent a good part of the year watching it, learning to love it, understanding it and naturally loving it. It wasn't forced. I didn't feel obligated, but learning to love it. And I'm like, I should be able to watch more, but I have to make time for this. I should be jumping around I should be jumping around in more spots in Japan. This is the stuff that I feel excited about, that I feel good about. And WWE fills me with a sense of dread. And it's not good for you either as a listener, a viewer, if my basic attitude when I sit down and start watching a WWE show is, okay, if I cross my arms and I let out a sigh and my attitude is, let's get it over with. That's not great. Like, that's not a good attitude to have. And I don't think it makes for compelling audio then after. I don't think it makes for a compelling show. If that makes sense. Like, specifically here on this card, right? There's one great match on Bash in Berlin. There is one match that my heart was pumping. And I was like, all right, this great stuff. Like a match that I would say is great. But then after that, all the stuff that they focus on is all things that I hate. It's stuff that I can't understand, stuff that I don't relate to, stuff that doesn't move me as someone who loves pro wrestling. So I don't know what to do moving forward. So I don't know what to do. And maybe this is just a bad mood I was in this weekend. Maybe it could be that. Not that I was particularly in a bad mood. There wasn't any reason. There wasn't any reason for me to be in a bad mood this weekend. But maybe there was just something. Maybe there's just something in the air where I was like, maybe I came into this and I just didn't have a good attitude, and maybe this is just how I'm feeling. And maybe next time, maybe when we swerve back to another WWE pay-per-view, like what is it? The next one is I don't remember. It's a callback name. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But the next one they're going to do in October, maybe I'll be like, all right, I'll sit down and I'll give it another shot, kind of thing. And I'll come in with a more positive mindset and whatnot. Maybe. But I am at a turning point. I said breaking point earlier, but maybe it's more of a turning point I'm at in regards to WWE right now. Because I don't think it's I don't think it's a pro wrestling show. It's a show about pro wrestling, which is not the same. And Paul Levesque himself says it. So I don't know why I'd review it. Especially since it doesn't scratch any of my itches. Au contraire, it pulls up all the things that annoy me in pro wrestling more than anything else. And we're in a period in human history where wrestling has never been more accessible to more people on earth, thanks to streaming services up and down, from your IWTVs to your fight, Triller by Fight to, YouTube in a lot of circumstances as well. I don't know. I feel like there's much less reason to watch things that I'm not into than try to shoehorn this in and, Anyway, let's get to the review proper. See, I was going to do it again. I was going to say Bash at the Beach again. I am a complete moron. Bash in Berlin, August 31st, 2024, happening in Berlin. In case you didn't get it, that's in Germany at the Uber Arena. Let's just go right ahead. Start. Why don't we go to the main event? I like to do that, and then we'll come back to the. We'll come back to the start of the card. Gunther defeated Randy Orton to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I had problems with this match, as you probably assumed with that initial intro. I had problems with this match, and it's mostly in its structure because Walter, fighting from beneath is weird. Gunther is a guy who commands a ring, right? Like he commands a spot in the ring as the when he calls himself the ring general. My German is terrible. The ring general. When he calls himself that, you can feel it. You can see it. Like, this is a guy who dominates a ring. He takes over the ring. It's his spot. You're wrestling in his ring. He's just a guy who naturally exudes that. I know why they decided to go down the route they did, okay? To have Orton dominate him and Gunther having the comeback spots and the hope spots to get to the win, not the wind, but the win, right? I understand why they did that. Big homecoming, just wanted people to get excited about. Like I said, I understand why they did it, but I think it was miscast. Plucky underdog Walter just doesn't work. It doesn't connect. He's the guy who's in control of the match. He's the force to be reckoned with. Randy Orton commanding him, it didn't feel natural. You could see the story as opposed to the match, if that makes sense. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, you could see what they were trying to do as opposed to the match telling the story, right? You're like, oh, I see what they're doing here. I don't know if I'm expressing it well, but it was very transparent, I guess, what they were doing here. And one of the reasons, and I'm not just putting this all on vibes, but Randy should have really gone harder in the heel stuff as well. Like, he was a lot more content playing with the crowd, doing the wave with them and whatnot, as opposed to healing it up. And I think he underperformed in this role here. And every time you argue with someone who's a WWE fan, they'll, regarding the greatness of Randy Orton, this is what they'll say. They'll say he's one of the greatest of all time, right? And then I'll say, well, what makes him great? And I'll say, oh, he's a 14-time world champion. I'm like, okay, well, that's neat and all. That's kayfabe, okay? Essentially, that's just kayfabe. Anything better than that? Anything like, what can you tell me about Randy Orton? What makes him special in the ring? Oh, he's so solid. He's such a great seller. He's got great fundamentals. No argument there on my part. This is all true. Super solid performer, smart performer, reliable, consistent, fundamentals, sound. But since when do fundamentals get you excited? And I'm not just saying you have to do the flippy doos. That's not what I'm saying. We don't have to go to either extremes. Because I saw a match recently that was all about fundamentals in the N1 over in Pro Wrestling Noah, Kaito Kiyomiya versus Ryohei Oiwa. And that was all about slapping on headlocks, and it was one of the best goddamn matches I saw this year. So the fundamentals can be exciting, okay? I'll grant you that when it's well done and you have people who are able to make it dramatic. But Randy he seems to throw himself so much into this that he feels that's all he needs to do because he's so solid. He's always had the tools, right? He's always had everything to be a top guy, but I've always felt that he's always been stale, even when he was supposed to be on the rise. He's never fully put it together for some bizarre reason. Like, he wrestles and it looks like he doesn't care. He doesn't have a next gear. He doesn't make matches exciting. He's the poster boy, for WWE fans who say, wrestlers shouldn't wrestle for Meltzer. That's absolutely true, and wrestlers shouldn't wrestle for stars or whatnot. They should wrestle to have just great matches, whichever way, shape, or form, regardless of the number of stars you attribute. But the lack of desire that he shows to adapt and mix it up and change has turned him into one of the most stale wrestlers of the past decade or so. It's always the same with him. Yes, he's solid. Yes, other wrestlers and pundits and experts would love to be him. Promoters say he'd be a guy I'd want on my roster, right? I'm sure there are other wrestlers, though, who could have the same fundamentals and be so sound as Randy Orton, but would know how to dial it up to create truly memorable matches, truly exciting matches. This match was kind of there. It just sort of happened. And it's a solid, fundamentally sound match. No pizzazz, no energy, no heart. We're not even having chop exchanges. We're not even having like some of the signature Gunther stuff that make Gunther matches so great. And you can't say, well, Gunther's a flippy guy in here. That he's never been a flippy guy. I wish I would have liked this match more. Like, I really, 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 really wish I would have liked this match more. What did I rate this match? What did I give this match? 2 3/4 stars. It did nothing for me. And this is the main event. And this is Gunther and his, having a homecoming. I don't understand. Just a baffling main event to me. Let's go back to the top of the card. Cody Rhodes defeated Kevin Owens to retain the Undisputed Championship, which is, again, absolutely disputed. On the same card, there was another World Championship being defended. Cody Rhodes' Undisputed Championship is 100% disputed. But this match with Kevin Owens, legitimately great. I loved this match. I thought it was absolutely spot on. And both of these guys, Rhodes and Owens, they worked hard here to have a really good wrestling match. As the kids say, they were cooking. And they're going at it, and they're landing big moves on each other, and it's just getting throughout the match. It's just getting hotter and hotter, and I'm feeling it. I'm getting into it. They're dragging me in. Great pace on top of that. To the point, and they're dropping so many moves on each other that I'm like, we might even see a Steamalizer here. I wouldn't be shocked if Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes are backstage and like, oh, maybe I should do a Steamalizer. Oh, maybe you should do a Steamalizer. I wouldn't have been surprised at all. And I'm really into it. And then Cody does a move right off the turnbuckle, and his knees buckle, or at least one of his knees buckles. And Kevin Owens then has the crisis where he wants to go for the knee, but he holds himself back. And I'm like, not here too. Like, we just got out of this nonsense with Will Ospreay, and the Tiger Driver 91 is like, oh, I don't know if I can pull off wrestling moves that will hurt, my opponents. I'm like, what are we doing here? What is wrong with wrestlers in North America these days that they don't want to hurt each other? I don't understand. I legitimately don't understand. Like, I don't get it. Like, nobody wants to win matches. CM Punk at SummerSlam preferred to get a bracelet than win a match against his arch enemy. I don't understand. What's the point of a wrestling match if you don't want to win it? What's the point of being in a title match if you don't want to win it? I understand. They're friends and so on. Kevin Owens has been friends with so many fucking people. and has still gone for the knees and has done, has worked body parts. You think he's been soft on El Generico? Come on now. None of this works. Now, I'm aggravated at it, but it didn't take me out completely of the match because it was brief. My heart sunk, but we were able to move on from this. Because look, it was unnecessary. It was dumb. It was unnecessary and dumb. And I don't know what it is these days with these big matches, and having this story time bullshit get in the way, get in the flow of these matches. I don't understand. But look, this was nonetheless tremendous. It didn't completely take me out of the match. Like I think I sound more aggravated at it than I really am / was. It's still something I need to point out because it's these tropes, they're not going away, man. They're sticking around and everyone's doing them. And it's really annoying. But here, this was great. This was great. Cody goes for two crossroads. KO hits a stunner at the end, swanton. But Rhodes has his knees up, and then he hits the crossroads again for the win. It's tremendous stuff. Two great workers, two guys who know how to put on a wrestling match, and this is what happens. I gave it 4.25 stars. That's how much, and I probably was ready to go higher. I'm going to tell you one thing. Cody, we talked about it on the preview briefly last week, but Cody Rhodes's his title run right now has been very average. Like he hasn't had any hot feuds, hot rivalries, but he's had some really good matches in here. His matches with AJ Styles were really good. His match here with Cody was very good. Great even. And he had a great one with AJ Styles as well. The Solo Sikoa match stunk, but we knew what we were getting into with that. He's had an unremarkably great run so far. Does that make sense? Like, nothing feels hot, but the matches are really good. Outside of the SummerSlam match. And KO, as we mentioned last week, well, he's got about 6 months left on his on his contract. I don't know if AEW is going to do some contract tampering. Then we had Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defeating the team of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn to regain the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. So this is as pedantic as it gets. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn were given the titles in Scotland at the Clash at the Castle show. Because they were locals, and now it's like, all right, time to give them back, girls. Playtime's over. I don't know. Who cares? I gave this match 2.5 stars. I don't know. The crowd was into this, but I don't know. This was probably Jade's best WWE performance overall, I'd say, so far. But I don't know. Bianca Belair's doing most of the match. There's no heat to this. And I'm still befuddled at what they're doing or what they're not doing with Bianca, who should be one of their top stars. And I don't know. And 2.5 stars for me. Did I say it? Let's move on. CM Punk defeated Drew McIntyre. in the strap match. This is a very okay PG-13 strap match. And they did it in the worst possible iteration of strap matches, which is the four corner turnbuckle tapping. They even set up hockey goal lights on top of each corner just to make sure you knew that who had been hitting the corners, because you're obviously too dumb to follow this, right? It's obvious. It's way above everybody's head, right? If you're paying it, you pay attention. Even you're trying to pay attention, and it might escape you. And I'm not even sure how the rules worked. That's the one thing, is like, I understand how these work, but then the lights go off after a consecutive whatever the fuck. It's like, I don't know I don't even know what the rules were in regards to the reset of the light. I don't understand. And in this match, you could see immediately where this is going to go, how this was going to go, because CM Punk early in the match lands a GTS, like early on, but he doesn't want to win. No one wants to win matches in this company. He doesn't want to win. He doesn't go around tapping turnbuckle corners. He's like, oh, I just knocked him out with my finisher, and I could win right now with a jaunty sprint all around the ring. But no. Anyway, match progresses. Punk actually bleeds in this one. I was like, oh, okay. Is this gonna ramp up? But no, it's a PG strap match. So we got a bit of blood, probably because Phil lobbied for it, which is fine by me, don't get me wrong. He doing his best to wash away whatever happened at SummerSlam, which was, I'm convinced he's embarrassed about. I'll tell you one thing, this was not Bryan Danielson and Ricky Starks, whipping each other right in the face. This was not it. And then Drew has the bracelet, right? He has it in his trunks and he pulls it out during the match because it's not about the bracelet. Remember? It's not about the bracelet. And remember, this is important. Remember, SummerSlam, Punk loses the match because of the bracelet, because he has Drew McIntyre beat and he won't do it because Seth Rollins has the bracelet or whatever, right? And this gets mocked severely by a huge number of people online. And so then he goes on Raw the following SummerSlam and he says, it's not about the bracelet, it's what it represents. You can keep the bracelet. And yet every week since, right into this match, the bracelet has always been in play. Every single week. He's been trying to get it back from Drew, and Drew ended up stuffing it down his gullet last night on Raw. It's been the centerpiece of this stupid feud. It's like, it was Edge. Who was Edge feuding with over a bottle of shampoo? I don't remember. Look, it doesn't matter. Let's not get off track too much here. This stupid ass bracelet. I can't wait to never speak of this again. Anyway, they do stuff and it's a well-worked match. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't feel like a strap match. It doesn't feel violent. It doesn't feel urgent, desperate. I don't feel the anger. I don't feel the hate for a feud that was so masterfully built. This great rivalry. The payoffs so far, because this feud is not done. The payoffs so far have been extremely, extremely mid. And Punk eventually wins the match by landing 1 GTS per turnbuckle tapped. I got people going, oh, that's a decisive win. No, that's a little more than a decisive win. That's a little more than just a decisive win. Go tap GTS, tap GTS, tap finisher. No, it's a little more. It's a little more than that. We're bordering on something else here. The thing here in this feud, I don't know if you've noticed, in this rivalry, but in all of the big moments, Drew ends up looking like a geek. From the 2 times he was cheated out of a title to this here, he always ends up looking like a geek. I know. I don't think this is by accident, right? I'm just saying. We had ourselves a 2 3/4 stars for me. The Terror Twins, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley, defeated Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. I have no thoughts on this. This is a perfect example of what I was saying at the top. This is something that does not speak to me. I've got nothing here. I am not the target audience for this kind of nonsense. It's not for me. It does not speak to me. The Liv Dominic stuff for weeks has been cringe. Even before she turned on, he turned on Rhea, and Rhea's another person in this company who should be doing single stuff and being just a dominant superstar. But this is the best they can do. Look, I don't have thoughts on this. I am the anti-audience for this match. I will agree, though, that the audience was into this. That the people who are into this are super into it, and I applaud them for finding joy in this kind of stuff. Because any story that's being told here, I can see it on any other drama or comedy or any type of other performance-based art other than wrestling, and it will be much better done than this, better acted, with a lot more nuance, or a lot funnier. This is really the kind of match where if you're into stories, this is perfect for you. This didn't connect. Judgment Day get involved. Work was fine. I don't know. Came across as a good TV match to me, but the crowd was into this. How many friends and factions becoming foes can WWE run at once? We talked about this earlier. It's the only angle they know how to run, right? The Bloodline and Judgment Day and Control, Damage Control. And, they were starting to do it with the New Day before Odyssey Jones got kicked out of the company. Jaden Bianca is coming down the line. Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. That's Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. You can see that written on the wall. They are redoing Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax. It's legitimately the same thing. It's the only way. I feel like it's the only angle they're able to run. That's all they're doing. I don't know. I got no thoughts on this match, and we already talked about the main event. So overall, I know it sounds weird. I don't think it's a bad show overall. There's just so many things that annoy me, that get to me, that that don't fulfill me in WWE now, that I think I have to come to grips with the fact that maybe I'm just better off not watching it anymore. Because I'm thinking back, thinking back to everything I just said, and I'm here and I'm telling you, this wasn't a bad pay-per-view. And yet, I feel like I just trashed it from top to bottom. So I don't know. A great match. A great match. Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, great match. Fantastic opener. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. A lot of soul searching needs to be done. But in the meantime, before we get to deep in that soul searching, we are going to review NXT No Mercy, which happened at the Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. The day after Bash in Berlin, so September the 1st, first PLE of the year. What do we got? We've got, let's go through this. Axiom and Nathan Frazier defeated Chase U to become once again WWE NXT Tag Team Champions. These Chase U and Axiom and Frazier had one of my favorite tag team matches I've seen this year. Probably one of the best matches you'll see in WWE this year at the last show, which was the Heatwave. I thought it was tremendous. But the Chase U duo was Andre Chase and the other guy. I can never remember his name, but the other guy. But for some reason, I can never remember his name. But it's the other guy. Let me look. I have to pull it up. I do not remember. Duke Hudson. It was Duke Hudson and Andre Chase. And those four guys had the best match of the night. One of the best tag team matches I've seen all year. And absolutely one of the best matches in WWE in 2024. But now, Duke Hudson was not in the match. It was Ridge Holland who was there. Apparently they're doing Freebird rules. And this was a good match. I didn't think it was even close to being as good as the match they had at Heatwave. And I think I can pinpoint why. Because Frazier and Axiom, man, they're fantastic. And Nathan Frazier he's tremendous. Like, he's better than most of the roster on NXT, and that's just reality. You just look at him wrestle. He's better than most of the guys who are there. He's just absolutely tremendous. Axiom's great too. I've always enjoyed A-Kid's work, and Andre Chase in these circumstances, I think he's been phenomenal. I think he's a great Ricky Morton in these circumstances as well. Like, Ridge Holland is just a big, uninteresting guy. He's just a big, uninteresting, lumbering dude who they seem hell-bent on making work. Like, they're putting so much effort in trying to make Ridge Holland a thing, but his work is average. His charisma is non-existent. What is the upside that Ridge Holland has that they don't already have in other guys who could be in this spot? Like, I don't see what he brings specifically to the table where, he gets He gets these little pushes. Look, he's been 6 years in the system, okay? He's been 6 years in the system. I know he was injured, but like 6 years. And I don't see how he's suddenly becoming a star here. Like, I feel like 6 years we're starting to get to a cutoff point here. Plus, this is a guy who was sent up to main roster and then sent back down because he's Ridge Holland. You know, it's like that's pretty much it. Like, there are other big guys in the WWE roster who fulfill exactly whatever upside he has, and they fulfill it better than he does. But I don't know. Look, I thought he dragged the match down. But nonetheless, this is probably this is one of the best matches of the show. And, you know, Axiom and Fraser win with the Spanish Fly, Phoenix Splash combo, big spots, spectacle, very good. I give it 3 3/4 stars. And after the match, Ridge Holland turns on Chase U, while Thea Hale cries, and Andre Chase has a stretcher job. So again, we're pushing this guy. And I don't understand why. I don't get it. Just fascinating to me. Then we had Zachary Wentz walking into NXT with his TNA X Division title. It was not on the line though. He defeated his former friend Wes Lee in what I thought was the match of the night. This match rocked, and it had some really good moments and a really, really fun final third to this match. I thought it rocked. You know, they're doing the flippy stuff for the majority of the match. This is what these guys do. You know, there's this you know, unfortunate spot on the commentary table where Lee lays Wentz onto commentary, but the commentary table collapses without any pressure. But they do the spot anyway. Wes Lee was supposed to climb to the top rope and do something, but they do it anyway. But the camera doesn't quite catch whatever he was trying to do, so I'm not quite sure. Trey Miguel shows up. He keeps Wes Lee from using a chair. And then we get a final tremendous sequence. On top of that, Wentz also lands a Canadian Destroy off the apron. Like, there's something you don't see in NXT every day. Got the crowd alive. The crowd was into this one, as they should have. And Wentz wins with the UFO. It's interesting that they worked into the rivalry here, the very real firing of Zachary Wentz from NXT. You'll remember he was, you probably all know, he was in a tag team with Wes Lee a couple of years ago. And then I don't want to get into it, but certain things happened online which got him fired, sort of derailed his career. And that was the impetus for Wes Lee to say, look, you know, you let me down, bro. And this is where I'm at now, and you know, this is all your fault, kind of thing. So interesting, brave of them to do that. But look, I thought this match was very good. I enjoyed it a tremendous deal. And unfortunately, from this point moving forward, this show falls off. Like, from this point on, it's not a complete disaster. And we've seen complete disaster NXT shows, but you know, the heights were reached at this point. And it falls sharply down with Kalani Jordan successfully retaining her NXT North American Women's Championship against Wendy Chu. This was not good. This was not a good match. I can't believe that the nickname they've decided to give Wendy Chu is the Sleepy Psycho. How in the name of God's green flat earth are you supposed to get this over? Are you supposed to? The Sleepy Psycho. How are you as a pro wrestler supposed to get that moniker, that gimmick over? You have to be the unprecedented talent to make this shit work. I feel so bad for Wendy Chu, who is a good pro wrestler, but has never been able to stretch her legs in NXT properly and do cool shit because she keeps getting saddled with nonsense. She was the mysterious leader of the faction, with Xia Li and Boa. You remember that? She was the one. She was the mysterious person sitting on the throne on the thing. And then they did the actual I'm an actual sleepy girl thing where she wrestled in a onesie. Remember that? And now this is, from what I understand, it's the continuation, but now she's a nightmare now. And it is so cringe. Like, it's cringe. And the match is cringe. There's no heat. There's no energy. This went so long. This is a 13-minute match and it felt like 30. Kalani Jordan, good energy, good look, but she still has a long way to go. She can do moves, but she hasn't pulled it all together to string it all together to make compelling wrestling matches, to bring it all together. Like right now, she's still very much in, doing moves, pulling stuff off, remembering what she needs to do. Like, you can see it. You can see she's thinking about the next move as she's performing whatever she's doing here. She's not natural yet, but she's young. So I'm not going to sit here and bury her. There's no reason to. I think she from, as opposed to a lot of NIL people that we've seen go through this NXT system, I think she's got something. I don't think she's going to be, like, I'm not calling her the next Akira Hokuto, but she definitely has potential. She's got something. She has a higher ceiling than what we're seeing right now. I think that's pretty evident. She's just young. Like, this is inexperience. She's young. She's being put in these circumstances with wrestlers who have these very intricate gimmicks that come in the way of just doing cool stuff in the ring. Like, we're not setting these people up for success, I don't think. So she still has a ways to go. Wendy Chu's just being wasted. That's all there is to it. I wouldn't be surprised if she's released, or if she decides to move on. This is a woman who has a lot more to offer than what the fuck they're doing with her. What they've been doing with her. And after the match, she being Wendy Chu, she gets attacked by the other spooky girl in NXT, who is Tatum Paxley, who's, who plays with dolls and dresses up like a doll, like a goth doll. She's not spooky, she's goth. And she has a doll, and she puts it on Wendy Chu, and she sort of sways on, next to her. She's standing tall and she's swaying it. Who cares? I don't know. I don't get it. I'm not here for this. I'm just not. Oba Femi defeated Tony D'Angelo to retain the NXT North American title. I didn't think this was bad. I didn't think it was good either. Oba Femi, I think, is he's still not ready to captain matches solo. Be in complete control, especially when he's fighting a guy like Tony D'Angelo, who is not very good. Like, I'm still baffled that Tony D'Angelo was the guy they decided to go with for the NXT Championship match WrestleMania weekend, because he's not very good. So you put him in there with Oba Femi, and if they're essentially two greenish guys. Like, let me pull up. How long has Tony D'Angelo been at this? Like, I know Oba Femi is absolutely a rookie, right? Tony D'Angelo, he's been at this for 6 years. Well, he started in 2019. He had one match in 2019. And he's been in the system since 2021. All right? And I don't know, like, I don't know what they were expecting out of this, but I feel like this served to expose Femi more than anything else, who had been heavily protected in matches, in multi-man matches. You know, he's always been very protected. But here they plop him in here with D'Angelo, who's not a great worker, and Femi is still a rookie. I don't know. I don't think it did. I don't think it did Femi any service. I feel he's a guy. I don't know what there is that you can squeeze out more of D'Angelo here. I think he's a what you see is what you get guy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see great things out of it. Femi has all the tools. He's just still a rookie. And I think he was a little exposed here. I didn't think that was particularly great. That's fine, I guess. A fine wrestling man. You know, fine. Just fine. Roxanne Perez defeated Jada Parker to retain the NXT Women's title. I like Jada Parker enough. You know, her style doesn't match her wrestling. You know, when I say her style, she's supposed to be like the street smart, smash mouth wrestler, right? And she gets into the ring and she ends up doing stuff that everyone else does. When I think it would help her tremendously to be a bruiser, a brawler, like she had promos with Roxanne Perez in the buildup that we saw, where she's actually showing some fire, and she slaps Roxanne across the face, and she lays into it. I'm like, damn, okay, some fire here. We've got something here. So she should just never mind, flying rope stuff and bouncing off of the second turnbuckle. She should just beat people up. She should just come in and beat people up and jabber and talk and just put people down. Her selling is awful. Her selling is not good. But she's also a literal rookie. Like, she's a literal first-year person at this, right? I think there's a nugget of something, but they have to. If I'm her, I'm having a talk with Shawn Michaels and I'm saying, why don't I be, the brawler of the women's division? And I think she could pull it off. There's a barricade spot here. This is where they decide to do the barricade spot. Roxanne Perez lands Pop Rocks on the barricade, which is the finisher, but it doesn't finish Jada Parker off because she crawls back to the ring, and then Pop Rocks in the ring for the win. So Roxanne retains. Not a bad, again, I think, I like this better than Nova Femi and Tony D'Angelo, but, this was fine again. Like, this is fine. You have Roxanne Perez, who's regressed, and Jada Parker, who's a literal rookie. What do you get what you can, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. It was, wasn't good either. It's fine. Then after the match, Julia arrives. The rumors are true, said Vic. And I'm like, what rumors? We all knew this was happening. You made a big deal out of her being signed. There's no rumors. We knew Julia was heading to NXT months ago. It's fine. She looked good. Very charismatic. And she stands, I was going to say nose to nose, but she has a full head, she's a full head higher than Roxanne. So this is the match we're building to, and this is the match this is what people want to see. They want to see how Julia is going to handle NXT. We'll see how that happens. I don't know if she's been brushing up on her English. It's like, I'm very curious to see how all of this is going to be handled. And I'm very curious to see how Julia is going to adapt to this NXT style with these, mostly green women. Jordan Grace is not going to be there for another 4 months. And the main event, Ethan Page retained the NXT title by defeating Joe Hendry. Trick Williams was the special guest referee. This was just dull. This is just a boring match. I wrote down in my notes, jaggedy jag. I mean, this is a match that ended up honestly being about Page and Trick. Designed to keep Trick in the conversation and remind us that Ethan Page and Trick Williams are rivals. So, Joe Hendry was a little, I wouldn't say a prop, but he was an accessory in this match. How about that? And, look, I'm not a Joe Hendry guy. Like, I don't do... We've talked about Joe Hendry multiple times here on the show, and it's fine. Like, I think he's a fine wrestler. He's okay. He's not a top guy. He's, again, like, people get so excited and say he's great, he's good, he's good. And where's the great Joe Hendry match? And no one can find it for me. They all point to the what culture match, and I'm like, I think it was a very good match. I don't think it was great. I haven't and that's okay. Like, this guy can this guy can be vibes. He can be a vibe wrestler. I don't have a problem with that. For some reason, this match needs a ref bump, And it's Trick Williams who takes a ref bump, and he's a pro wrestler. He's not a referee. What are we doing here? What is he, takes me out of the match a bit. Another ref runs down. A DDT then happens on the belt by Ethan Page. He covers. The ref starts counting, but Trick jumps back into the ring to keep the referee from counting the 3. The new ref is punched accidentally. That distracts Trick Williams, which allows Ethan Page to get a sneaky roll up and get the win. And Trick Williams, who said he'd call it down the line, right? He said, I'm going to call this fair and square. He does a slow count. So, okay, whatever. Is everyone starting to see what I keep saying about Joe Hendry? Or I don't know. After the match, Pete Dunne attacks Trick and then stares down Ethan Page. Pete Dunne now back into NXT. C'est la vie. That was No Mercy. I don't think this was a particularly good show. Again, we'll connect that to what I was talking about at the top, but I don't think once again I don't think this was a very good show. Again, it might be just me. It could be just me. I still have AEW All Out 2024 that I want to preview. And I also have New Japan Capital Collision that I want to review. That was part of the stuff. But, no shock here. I've gone long once again on the stream. And, knowing me, I've still got easily an hour of stuff to go over. So I'm thinking probably maybe what I should do is record an extra episode. Record a little something extra and a little extra episode of the Mr. Warren Hayes show, and then release that later this week. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow, maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. Get some extra stuff out there, because I don't want to rush through this, and I feel like I'm going to rush through it, and I don't think that's good for you, the viewers. Don't think it's good for me either, because I feel unfulfilled then, and I feel like I botched, these elements of the show. So we'll do some extra. We'll do some overtime. I do this on Going Broadway, but since I advertise this, I feel like I feel like I should release. So that's what we'll do. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the podcast for today. We covered a lot of stuff, but we'll be back later this week with a preview of All Out 2024, and then probably a good idea. After Dynamite, we'll have a better sense of all the matches that are on the card, because right now we've got 6 matches announced. So that'll be a thing. And so there'll be more matches added there. And then I'll break down the Capital Collision show as well. So we'll probably combine that into an extra set of content. And everyone loves extra content, right? So, on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight for this edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I hope you had a good time. If you don't mind, a like here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify would be tremendous. I'll be back this week with more stuff, and I'll still do the AEW Dynamite review on top of that. So there you go. Thank you all so very much for being here, for joining me live, or for watching on demand, and I'll see you next time.